Welcome to our continuing YouTube video series on employment law. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal, and in this video we'll discuss whether or not you can still take action against your former employer, even though you might have taken a severance package from that employer, but now you're looking back on that termination and severance package, you're starting to say that maybe this wasn't enough money that you received. You thought you might be able to find a new position, but especially if you're in the oil and gas industry, you realize you took it maybe in 2019, even 2018, and you're realizing the economy got worse, not better. The jobs did not come about. And next thing you know, this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic hit, and you're struggling. You should have sought something more. Even though you might have gone to a lawyer, you feel like, did you really get the best thing out of it? And does your former employer owe you much more? And then on top of that, you start to look at your paperwork and you see these documents that you signed, and they're prepared by lawyers for a big oil and gas company. And you're saying to yourself, oh, I relinquished all my rights. I signed a release. I took money and I said I can't sue them anymore. I have no action I can take. Well, that may or may not be true. The reality is that just because you sign a bunch of papers and just because the company is big and powerful does not necessarily mean they're always right. More often than not, there are issues that can allow you to take further action, especially in the case of an employment situation, because you have to remember, in employment situations, the employers are mighty and powerful forces that have a bevy of lawyers who structure stuff for their own interests. The employee, meanwhile, oftentimes finds themselves in a position where they're very much accepting stuff, forced and pressured into situations not of their own making, but of a result of a situation that is well beyond them, and they're one small unit in a bigger operation. And to add to that whole dimension is the fact that these large companies get so big and powerful and condescending and aggrandized that they start to overplay their hand. And this overplaying of their hand oftentimes has happened for years and years. And they've put themselves into a perilous position that most people don't realize has come about. Nevertheless, what I've been noticing is they've increased the peril for themselves, and they've focused more on their own self-interest. And focusing on their own self-interest in their financial bottom line, and that of the high and powerful, whether it's the executives or the shareholders to whom they're beholden, has caused them to oftentimes make fundamental mistakes. And it is by identifying those fundamental mistakes, those flaws, those errors that these big companies have often done, that you can oftentimes come back and, with the right approach, challenge these large employers, revisit these termination and severance package that has been signed off, even paid out on, with mountains of paperwork, it seems like, having been prepared, signed, and issued, and still be able to go back. Now, sometimes the years have passed by, and we're talking about more than 2 years. We're talking about 4 or 5 years, and it might be very difficult in those circumstances because of the statute of limitations. Nevertheless, there are instances where really, if it's in the last 2 years, and even though you might have taken what you believe to be a termination and severance package that was final and binding and had all the requisite paperwork, that you may well be able to pull yourself and get something above and beyond that. And this is the critical thing. We're not trying to say we're giving up what you've already received, putting that and exposing that. No, no, no. What we're doing is we're dealing with what has been denied to you, the appropriate numbers that should have been assigned to yourself. The facts and circumstances may not line up for you. That's true. But what I'm telling you is that all too often, people have not sufficiently analyzed the situation, and the facts in the situation might well line up because of their focus. And their focus has not been on their employees and the specifics dealing with their employees. And that creates significant legal exposure. And because of that, there is a way in. And for the lawyer who knows how to penetrate there, to challenge it, to push it forward, there is the means to tackle it. And there is the way possible to gain something more. And it can be quite significant. We're talking about potentially tens of thousands of dollars. Upwards, sometimes in some cases even hundreds of thousands of dollars. It all depends on the particular situation and what has been done. But the challenge is that we need to discern where there are particular issues. And what happens all too often is that the lawyers or the individuals who have been looking at the approach to your severance pay, your termination pay, have not fully analyzed the full scope of paperwork, have not analyzed all the angles. And by failing to tackle these angles, they've done not enough to identify where you can make inroads, where you can get more. And especially in this hard economic time, does it not make sense to go and attempt to find out if there is an aspect that allows you to gain another $20,000, another $30,000, which you are legally entitled to, and the pursuit of which should not cost you anything other than to engage with the lawyer to say, look, this is my situation. Is there something more that you can find available to myself? Because what I'm telling you is that people have all too often allowed themselves to be pushed into situations and to take less than what they deserve. And if you deserve more and there's a legal basis for more, why should you not pursue it and gain it, especially when it's going to really cost you nothing? Because if it's identified, then it's something that can be tackled and can be pursued, and the cost and the challenge resides with the lawyer. At least that is our approach to these matters. So if you're feeling under the gun, you're hurting financially, or you're just looking to have your termination and severance package reviewed before you sign off on it, feel free to contact ourselves. Get us to take a look at the package that's offered. Get us to look at the other documentation that we believe is important. And we'll let you know if there's something more that can be done. Because from what we've been seeing, there's a lot that needs to be done with respect to these termination and severance pay packages, that employers are leaving so much on the table. And by leaving stuff on the table, it's not only hurting yourself financially, it's hurting your family financially. And in these hard economic times, why should you leave that money aside? Why? That is the big question. Especially when all it takes is to make the inquiry, to pursue a different strategy, and make the decision if it shows up right, if the approach that's presented to you works in your favor. then it's your determination whether or not you want to engage with lawyers such as ourselves to pursue a strategy that could get you significantly more money. Money that you are, in our estimation, legally entitled to. But once again, so much of it depends on the specific facts and circumstances, but it also depends upon you taking action to contact us or other lawyers who understand what needs to be done. So I hope you found this YouTube video informative, and we look forward, where possible, of assisting yourself in tackling these matters to the best of our ability. Thank you.